We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix. I am your host for the next 2 hours, your master of ceremonies, as we dive into the world of spiritual madness and authentic expression. Today's guests, and they will be great, I guarantee they will be great, are Perry Logan, a fellow Austinite, and somebody I would probably term a radical Democrat and a radical progressive. It's not, I generally don't have radical Democrats or radical progressives or Democrats and progressives on the show very often, but Perry's talents supersede his political affinities, and there are some things we probably agree upon more than not. And I've never met Perry. I've just seen him and discovered his material on local access TV here in Austin. And when I did, I was absolutely blown away. We're going to play just a brief sample of his video coming up here. It's called Obama's America. It's his latest. And you really have to see the videos to fully appreciate that. But you'll get some of the idea through the audio. Perry Logan, you can look him up on YouTube. The link is on the show page. In the second hour, we'll be joined by our friend Sarah Nash, the Cosmic Hooker, and we'll hear all about Sarah's exploits at Burning Man and how her White Light Express event went and all the goodies. We might even do an Ask Sarah segment, and you can call in and ask her your questions about love, life, the afterlife, whatever's on your mind. Okay, so looks like Mr. Perry Logan is a very punctual person. It's almost 12:05. This is the time I had asked him to call in on, and there's the 512 on cue. So let's bring him on. This is Perry Logan, my fellow Austinite and political ombudsman. So let's get into this with Mr. Logan.
Hello,
Perry.
Hello. Hi, this is Perry. I heard something about a cosmic hooker. I've got to hear it.
Yeah. So Sarah Nash is a friend of mine, and she that's her pseudonym, the Cosmic Hooker. Although I've been telling her she should become the Cosmic Madam because she's been at the Cosmic Hooker thing for too long. She needs to step up. But
had to move up, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think too. So she's going to be on in the second hour. Very, very funny person. Very wry and dry. Yeah, very insightful.
Sounds like a kindred spirit to me.
Yeah, so speaking of kindred, let's light some kindred flame here. I discovered you. It was really interesting, Perry. I had this moment. Sometimes I feel like, and maybe you experience this from time to time, but I feel like there are times when I'm being led to kind of a certain moment in time or a certain experience. It used to be when I'd go to the library or I'd go to the bookstore, there'd be that book on the bookshelf.
Oh, yeah. I've had that.
Yeah. Well, I think it was 2 weeks ago, it was, you need to watch some Austin local access TV. So I went through Comcast, and I got right to the beginning of Obama's America. And I sat there, I said, who is this guy? And I was absolutely spellbound for the next 29 minutes. Yeah, and so that's when and then I realized you were here and wanted to reach out to you and find out more about you. And let's just start there. I know nothing about you except you make these incredibly zany and inspired videos. How long have you lived here in Austin, Perry?
Well, first of all, thank you for those kind words. And I have lived in Austin since, let's see now, my goodness, 1981. Me and my lady moved here from L.A., where I was a grad student at UCLA. I really was, in English. And anyway, the lady of my life was hired at UT, and so I came with her to Austin. And we've been here ever since, and we've always loved the place. Moving here from L.A. was weird, you know.
Yeah, especially back in 1981. There might be a few more parallels currently, but in 1981, Austin was barely a blip on the map.
It was just so wonderfully funky, though. You know, people in L.A. would rave about Austin, say how far out Austin was. So it was like... it was quite an experience coming here, and surely ACTV, or Channel Austin, as they call it, our cable channel, has been renowned for a long time, nationally a winner of awards and stuff like that, as a really good cable setup. And I always liked watching it. And what happened to me was I was watching all the conspiracy guys, you know, Alex Jones and George Humphreys and other guys. Back in those days, our cable around here was just filled with conspiracy guys and saying just the craziest things. And you know, that was eventually what sucked me into the game. So it was the conspiracy guys were having all the fun, you know. It's like they could get on there and say anything and do anything, and apparently people went with it, right? Some of these guys have millions of followers, and it wasn't like I was trying to do anything like that, but I just thought it would be fun to get on there and be a crazy guy from the left. That was the kernel concept of the Perry Logan Show, was what if a lefty acted as crazy as a right-winger does? Not just conspiracy guys, but right-wingers in general, you know. They really act up, and they get crazy, and they chew the rug, and they jump up and down. And I thought, well, let me try that, you know, because lefties are, not all of them, but most lefties are pretty straight-laced, and, you know, just they don't jump around and scream. And so I thought it would be fun to try to do that. And I thought I was the man for the job, so, you know. And it turned out to be so much fun that I couldn't stop.
And how long ago was your first show?
10 years ago.
10
Hard
years.
as it may be to believe, if anyone knows of the show, I've been doing it for 10 years. It's been just a fascinating thing for a guy who grew up thinking he was going to be a writer. You know, I thought I mean, that was sort of like my self-image as I grew up, was I was going to be a writer. And possibly because my dad is a big admirer of James Joyce. My dad used to read Ulysses every year and taught English himself at junior college. Mm-hmm. So I just fancied the idea of being a writer, and didn't expect all this multimedia stuff, to say nothing of jumping around on the trampoline and acting like a fool.
Yeah, it's I mean, when I first saw your show, you were. It took me a little while to kind of figure you out, and when I did, I totally got what you were doing, and
wow.
even though, and I'll be upfront, I'm kind of a conspiracy guy myself, but I was so taken by your artistic genius, and you're willing to speak truth on your own terms via your own point of view, that I wanted to have you on. And of course, the video I saw was Obama's America, and and I want to tip my hat to you for being able to speak out in such a way that you are I think you probably represent the best of the left, meaning that you're self-critical about your own party, and no matter what our affiliations are, I think to be able to step back and look at what we believe in and what we put our full faith and credit in, and then criticize it based on that, is one of the traits that theoretically would make this country great. What kind of flack have you taken from other Democrats and other progressives for your out-and-out assault on Obama?
Oh dear. Although I hasten to say that I try to do it in a spirit of satire and not as a real personal thing. But people are going to take it as they take it. I consider Obama politically bad, and it's not meant to be personal. But these are fuzzy boundaries. So and as far as flack goes, well, I got thrown out of a forum or two. Not for actually, doing anything nasty, but simply for criticizing Obama. So some lefties apparently don't like criticism too much, And then, of course, I regret to say there are innumerable charges of racism. I find it ironic that you can be called a racist for complaining that people are using the race card too much, right? You think, guys, could you stop calling everyone racist? And for that, they call you a racist. And so the reason I criticize the left and the Democrats and Obama is I think they've kind of gone bad. They've strayed from the course and not acting like what I would want a lefty to act like at all. I know how a lot of Republicans feel, right? There's a lot of Republicans who think, God, there goes the party. And only with them it's been going on for a long time. And I think the Democrats went down the tubes relatively recently, or sort of went big time down the tubes, and
Go ahead.
Well, people defend Obama, but mostly they just kind of just go away and call you a racist and stuff. So I don't think that the people who are still with the Democrats want to debate much, which is weird. Lefties who don't want to debate stuff, are you kidding? So it's just a kind of a different party. And so, you get into some interesting debates about Obama's record, because my main criticism on my shows, when all the noise has died down, is that he's acting like some extreme right-wing guy, which is my idea of is just, the end of the party.
It's clear that everything he's done has not only mirrored the Bush administration, but it's almost like the Bush administration on steroids.
It seems like it. What is the name of the trade agreement they're working on? They're working on a sort of a trade agreement that's so secret they won't even tell Congress about it.
Yeah, I think it's called the TCCP.
Yeah, it's got some initials for it, and it really is this kind of a ceding of power to the corporations. Sounds like they were talking about it on Democracy Now! Today. Folks should listen in on that. It's just sort of like this. It's like it's NAFTAzilla, right? Only it was far worse, and it does seem to be mainly oriented toward compromising governments in favor of corporations. And,
this is interesting.
No wonder they keep it secret.
That kind of universal broadside, it's nonpartisan, and certainly people on the right and in conservative circles are aware of this. Constitutionalists. I'm not talking about corporate conservatives, because I'm sure they're all for it. But, constitutionalists are not in agreement with any kind of, a trade agreement or treaties with other nations that aren't equitable or fair. And this, to me, is something that cuts across both political lines. And it, in a weird way, it's kind of like the extreme left and the extreme right are starting to kind of come together in a weird way about this common threat that we're all staring down, which are these toadies and lackeys for the bankers and the corporatists coming right out of Chicago, because that's the type of party politics, the neoliberalism that's been practiced for many, many years, and it's being put in place now and just stripping everything away, and I mean everything.
Yeah. It's pretty scary. It's kind of strange to be doing political or trying to do political satire in a time when it's not even clear that the system is working in a coherent way, right? Hey, we live in Austin, Texas, where our votes haven't counted for years, right? Thanks to gerrymandering and who knows what all.
Yep. Well, that's been going on nationally as well since, in a big way, 2000, right? I mean, that's when it really, made mark. And we haven't looked back since with election manipulation. Perry, I want to play, even though people can't see it, I want to play a little bit of Obama's America, okay? So people, because right now you're extremely, rational and soft-spoken and, very sweet, and, you're a kind man in this moment. But I want people to get a taste of your inspired madness here. I'm going to play just a couple minutes, and this is straight from the front of Obama's America. Again, you've got to see the visuals in order to really appreciate it, but you'll feel the energy. Here we go.
In this Perry Logan show, viewers will be protected from Perry getting too close to the screen and thus frightening the children by an electronic shield. We realize the last electronic shield failed, but this is a brand new shield featuring much better technology, and we assure you Perry will get royally zapped if he ventures too close to the camera. And I'm sure we all want to see that! Hello and welcome to Liberal Lefty Progressive Fashion News. It's August 29th, 2013, and what's new in the world of liberal fashion? Liberals and Democrats all over the nation are sporting those cute little Hitler mustaches. Everyone at MSNBC, except McDonough, now has one of those cute little Hitler mustaches. Hey, that's my mustache. Do I get any royalties for this? I just shut up, you! But it's true. Democrats and fascists are on the same page at last. They love drones. They love illegal killings. They love Obama's kill list. And we all know only fascists and psychos have killed. But it's the fascists, not the psychos, who are sporting those cute little Hitler mustaches. And Democrats gradually find themselves on the same page as fascists on issue after issue. Just look at all these issues on which today's Democrats agree with fascists. It's pretty gross, huh?
Now, this is where you're listing all of Obama's and the administration's sort of crimes against humanity, one after another on this scroll. And it's kind of mind-blowing when you just lay it all out there and see all these things. It's a pretty powerful checklist. Here we go.
When we all live against our wills in Obama's America. Obama's America, where 3/4 of public school teachers say they have children who are malnourished and underfed. Obama's America, where poverty rates are reaching new heights, where poverty in black neighborhoods surpasses Depression-era levels, where the banks are bigger than ever and run roughshod over our rights, where the NSA is surveilling everything we do to be used against us at a future time. Obama's America, where everyone has been called a racist at least 2 or 3 times. Obama's America, like a nightmare from hell, with child poverty, disease, squalor, fascism on the rise, fascism everywhere, Democrats wearing those cute little Hitler mustaches. For which I bet against some money, you know. I invented that mustache. I bet Obama's America, where they're crafting super secret trade agreements which are a lot like NAFTA on steroids, a lot like a kind of a NAFTA-zilla, in which the corporations are handed over all the power, thus proving Perry's theory. Obama is somewhere between a neocon and a fascist. What can I say? Must be a Chicago thing. Chicago, a great city. City of the big shoulders. The city our beloved Barack Obama came from, along with the not-so-beloved Rahm Emanuel, now the mayor of the city. And we can't help but notice the Democrats have a bit of a political machine. Wikipedia, political machine. We'll wait while you, Wikipedia, political machine.
Well, this goes on for another 24 minutes of completely inspired madness. Perry, have you been called a racist by your fellow Democrats?
I'm afraid so. But, you know, the Democrats are into a thing right now where if you disagree with them, you're a racist or a Tea Party or something.
Yeah.
So I just call them fascists, and everybody's happy. Well, I'm afraid they do that, you know, and it's been quite a disappointment to me. I like to think of lefties as being better, but at least trying to be better than that.
Well, Perry, it reminds me of when somebody says, you know, oh, Israel is, you know, the root of all evil, and then there's the Jews are behind it, and then automatically you're considered an anti-Semite. It's this ad hominem kind of strategy of just attacking your character versus really looking at the facts, and it's the laziest form of intellectualism that exists.
Yeah. It's a kind of it's what I call a fascist moral vision, and that is that if someone disagrees with you, then there is clearly something seriously wrong with that person. And you see this with far right people. You know, they think you're a communist or a heathen. Pretty much, if you disagree with them on matters of public policy, at least some of them do. And then, I regret to say, at least some of the Democrats are doing that. Where you say, well, you know, Obama has a kill list, and I don't think presidents should have kill lists. It strikes me as a pretty has nothing to do with race, but they are of an authoritarian mentality, would be my guess. Obama's folks, you know. I mean, if someone says he has the right of life and death, the right to decide who lives and dies, isn't that a little authoritarian? Sorry about that. Pressed a button on my phone. But it is my job to try to filter all of this stuff through my Ernie Kovacs on acid mentality in an effort to entertain.
I wanted to ask you about your production and kind of get a sense as to how you put this together. Do you script a lot of this, or how much of this is improvised for you?
It is. It seems like a pretty straightforward question, I realize. I would say that ultimately it's an improv thing. You know, ultimately it's got to be happening in the moment. But that it is something that is prepared in my head as I, you know. And there are things that I know where I know what I want to say. They are scripted. So it's a combination would be the best short answer.
Mm-hmm. So when you shoot this, Perry, do you just go into full-on kind of rant mode and then do your post-production stuff after the fact? Is that how that works?
That is how it works. I do not drop acid. I do not take acid to do the show, but I do psych up to do this kind of, kind of an overwrought persona, and it all starts with that. I do have to produce something like that, and then I spend the next about 4 days putting it into my version of a show. With the help of some of this lovely software that they have for us now, where you can put up letters and all kinds of cool things and take the reader into surreal fantasies.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. I love fantasy, so
yeah.
Where I go, there goes fantasy.
I'm an astrologer as well as doing this radio thing, and I'm fascinated as to what your sign is. When is your birthday, Perry?
July 25th.
You're a Leo, of course. The Leo, the hair, the mad mane of the Leo hair. Were you inspired at all by Monty Python? There's a lot of Python-esque kind of flavor in your work.
Well, I am a huge worshiper of Monty Python, and I'm flattered to death that you would mention them with me in the same sentence. And yes, I was very inspired by the surreal quality of Monty Python, and I don't think that they ever got too seriously political, but it was just inspired, comic genius, and it was all surreal. But I did want to get some of that into my show in as much as it might be possible. So I'm glad it seemed that way to you. This makes you a very sharp fellow.
Well,
that.
Well, it's all the hours of TV that I watched as a kid that connected that synapse up. I wanted to get your take on this. Is perhaps a bit more serious. I wanted to get your take on the shutdown. I recently posted an article on my blog about it, and people are saying, it's no big deal. We went through this in 1995. It lasted 21 days. And I am of a different mindset. I think it's actually quite a big deal right now because of the current political climate, the current political machine, and the fact that there is so much on the table and at stake with the Affordable Health Care Act and these two parties that seem to be really poles apart, when it comes to making decisions and directing policy. But they're all having drinks and cocktails and dinner at the same restaurant, clapping at 5, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen theoretically, and this is my take on it, is that there will be more government and bigger governments, and it will be more of a bigger, corporocratic fusion of government as a result of all of this, because that's really the end game, and I think that's where it's all headed. And they're complicit. I feel like they're complicit. But I want to know what your take is on this and how serious you think it is and where you think it's going to go.
Well, I do have a lot of the same feelings you do, that it's quite a different thing now, and I don't think it was a joke in the 90s, but if it was, it's no joke now. First of all, we were at least doing relatively well in the 90s, and so if you cut off some jobs and stuff, it's not so bad. And now it's like, people are hurting all over the place, and they're shutting down the government. One of the its best justifications is that it does help some people who need it, and they shut that down. I also agree with you on the whole point about it. Sure seems like they're in on it together. I guess it's the age when if you're not a conspiracy guy, you're not paying attention, right? Well, it seems to me like they both want it. Let's put it that way. I think the Democrats believe that it's helping them politically. I think they're wrong, but I think the polls indicate people are blaming the Republicans most, and I think the Democrats kind of like that, and they think it's helping them. And so there is a certain complicity going on, I think. It's certainly not about what's good for me and you.
No.
And, as for big government, Obama wants to make all the wrong things. There's good government and bad government, and Obama seems to want to increase some of the bad government things like the surveillance and stuff like that. So, I think the shutdown is a pretty serious thing this time around.
Yeah, I would agree with you. One of the things that is perhaps not talked about that often, certainly it was talked about in 2008 when Obama was getting elected, was his relationship with the school of Saul Alinsky. And in Rules for Radicals, one of the key strategies for community organizing is this whole concept of polarization. And when you have polarization, you freeze the issue, and you literally paralyze people as a result. And what we see here is Alinsky 101 happening at a mass level through this polarization of left and right and white and black, and liberal and conservative. It's really become very clear just in the past week. And I feel like the gap is widening on this. I went to Huffington Post the other night. I don't go there very often, but I go there just to take the temperature. And I'd say the temperature is, scorching over at Huffington Post. I mean, these people, they're frothing at the mouth now, and they hate for the conservatives and they hate for the Republicans is reaching this fevered pitch. Have you gone over there lately?
Yeah. Yes, I do hang around there when I'm allowed. And you're right. We do seem to be about as polarized as we've been since, the Civil War, right? And I don't know if I would lay it at Obama's feet. Certainly the Republicans are behaving about as badly as you would want to in most respects. Haven't they broken all known records for filibusters? They'll filibuster going to the bathroom and stuff. And, and that, people are going to respond to that. People are going to start reacting to that. And so, it does seem like the two sides are piquing each other into a great rage right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's so terrible since we have real problems that need real solutions. And,
Yeah.
Wow, they just keep getting worse and worse, The Founding Fathers are going to kick our butts in the hereafter for blowing it.
Yeah, I would completely agree. In your world, with a responsible kind of democratic representation, because I don't think it's bad to have, two competing voices, two competing ideologies, trying to strike something somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's a bad thing. But
it worked for a while.
It did. Apparently now it's getting too far apart. But in your world, coming from your, color of the political spectrum, what would be a more ideal situation for this country based on how you grew up, experienced, and sort of embodied this notion of being a Democrat, and how would that look in your eyes?
Well, it would probably resemble my formative years. So I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, and I would call that a period that had some things economically was pretty good. We had a long ways to go in terms of social justice, but we had a good economic thing happening. And in my opinion, being a lefty, I tend to ascribe this to the benefits of the New Deal, and that things were working pretty well. We had lowered the poverty rate. The middle class had grown. Things were, and the rich were fine, so it wasn't like we'd stepped on any toes. And this really began to deteriorate to our present state as early as the 70s, I would say. And so from my point of view, as a fairly simple-minded lefty at heart, is that I thought that some of this New Deal stuff actually worked pretty darn well, and people seem to like it. Things like Social Security certainly poll very well. And of course, the political right very zealously been fighting this. And as I say, you have to give a lot of credit to them. They really have undone a heck of a lot of it. We don't have any kind of even a piece of a safety net left. The safety net's been eaten away over those decades. All while I was being an adult, the world was going to the dogs.
Yeah.
So my vision of it is a relatively not even all that untraditional lefty vision of things, because certainly it seems to me the standard of living was a lot better then than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And now what we got is this, it's what neoliberal or conservative kind of stuff going on, and it just doesn't seem to be good for anybody but the corporations. Mm-hmm. They really do have us by the throat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I personally.
When the New Deal was enacted, there's some interesting sort of things that were happening at that time. That was when this whole idea of the corporation came about, because the corporation was created as an entity for the New Deal, that it would be created to build a bridge or build a dam or build a highway so it could get money. But the idea was that after the project was over, that the corporation would cease to exist, that its corporate rights would be forfeited. Well, that was never the case. And once the cat was out of the bag with corporations, we can see where we are now. So corporatism was actually born out of the New Deal. And the reason why I think the New Deal and that type of economy worked was because there was a great deal of expansionism still taking place in the United States. There was manufacturing, there was industry. So you had these two kind of parallel tracks working simultaneously, right? And then the 70s come along, the unions get taken over, businesses begin to get moved overseas, and now that other track, that expansion and this kind of building out of the American infrastructure becomes global, and it takes on this globalist tone and this globalist economy. And now these tracks that were running kind of simultaneously begin to fall off. And in fact, you have New Deal Part 2, the Great Society, which becomes even more kind of deeper infrastructure in terms of the social machine and more entitlements. So now we have this ramping up of the other track, while the other track is beginning to decrease and move elsewhere outside the borders. So I think in the 50s and the 60s, there was that sweet spot where these two pieces fit nicely together. But eventually, of course, people get greedy, and then they decide to move on and, reap their profits elsewhere and be damned with the people that helped them build the business in the first place, right?
Yeah. And then with Reagan, Reagan sort of suggested that we just kind of turn it all over to the corporations. Not in so many words, but that's essentially what happened then. It was like, let's see what happens if we just let them do what they want. And now we know. It does seem to kind of eat away at your democracy.
Yeah. No, it all starts at Reagan and the supply side economic theory. The funny thing about Reagan was that he was elected not necessarily by the conservatives, but they actually did a study through the Stanford Research Institute, and they did this whole punch card study about people's values, right? And they found out at that time that people's values were really kind of aligned with being left alone, let me live my life, I've just come out of the 60s, I've taken drugs, I've got some property, I just, I want to go to REI in the weekend, spend my money, and then go to, go hike or whatever. And the Reagan election team, they took hold of that, and the message from Reagan was, hey, don't worry, you live your life, you go do the best thing you can do, and we will support you as a result of that. It's going to be this kind of laissez-faire kind of government where we're going to increase your ability to live this good life of, values and choices is what they call it, that you lead. And so a lot of people from the 60s, the baby boomers,
they actually bought into Reagan at that point in time because of this psychological meme that was going on. And of course, the candidates on the left were not very compelling. I mean, I used to watch those debates, and Walter Mondale, he was okay, but it was not. He didn't stand a chance against the great communicator, especially when the media got involved. I mean, I would watch Mondale Reagan, and then you'd watch the pundits talk about the debate, and it was just insane. I wasn't seeing the same debate that they were. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But that's where it all started, right? And things seemed to work because there were less taxes, there were less, regulations for corporations. I mean, tariffs went away. It was kind of a bread and circus. It was a bread and circus.
But it turns out that,
what's that?
Well, behind all of that nice stuff was this deficit that was exploding like the Crab Nebula.
Right.
And that was the sign that maybe this was not all so cool, And also, I guess the standards of living really have been going down, just almost steadily since the 80s. So it did work for a while. As to who supported Reagan, I think it was a slightly younger cohort of the Boomer generation. I am an early Boomer, and we were the not me personally, but as a group, we were the ones who were the war protesters and of a decidedly leftward cast. And after us came another cohort, and they were still Boomers, but they're a little younger than us. The folks who came of age in the 80s, and these were very conservative people, and there were more of them than there had been of us. So the impression that the Boomers all turned into Reagan conservatives is easy to understand because we simply got replaced by younger Boomers who were just had a whole different take on it from us, And it was really sad because I kind of liked the way we were at first there, but it all turned around and America started this, seems to me like kind of a descent into corporate rule, right?
Yeah.
Some weird form of slightly inept corporate rule. Although I'll admit the government being shut down makes you wonder if anybody's in charge. I don't know. Don't you think the Tea Party are more or less in charge? The Tea Party are the folks that want the government shut down. And so they're getting what they want.
I mean, here's my take on the Tea Party. I think that initially the Tea Party was a grassroots kind of constitutionalist movement, and from what I saw very early on, they were taken over by the Republican Party, and you had you had
the Kochs, the Koch brothers,
Marco
far
Rubio.
right.
Marco Rubio was a Tea Party candidate. And Marco Rubio is anything but he doesn't stand for the same quote unquote values as one of the first wave of Tea Partiers stood for. Marco Rubio is a big government guy. Scott Brown, who was elected in Massachusetts, and a traditional Democratic progressive area, he gets elected. He's a Republican. And he gets elected on the fumes of the Tea Party. Now, he never says he's a member of the Tea Party, but he's more than willing to accept the association because that's where the political momentum is. And he drives off in his truck all the way to Washington and then begins to vote with Obama on almost every single issue. So I think that the imprimatur of the Tea Party is one that has been taken over, much like your left has been taken over. And now we've got these corporate criminals who fancy themselves as standing up for these ideals or these traditions or these beliefs, and they're doing the exact opposite. They've just taken this thing in name, and they're hiding behind these shields. And, I think that's where it's at, Perry.
Yeah. I think it's well worth noting what you just said about the Tea Party. They started off, they were just a for real group. They were real grassroots people, mostly like of a libertarian point of view. And it was really kind of cool. And it almost instantly the money took over. The Koch brothers and the Fox News were promoting them, and they've become just, as you say, just like almost the opposite. Just another corporate group. So it was sad to see them get co-opted like that. But if the current version of the Tea Party, I guess now it means like what, the far right, I guess, the far right of the Republicans. And they, I guess, would be happy that the government shut down.
Yeah, I don't know about those guys. I mean, I look at their representation: Lindsey Graham, Boehner, John McCain. I want to rest.
Well,
I mean, they're just old school.
These are all corporate guys.
They're all corporate Republicans, and they don't,
Yeah.
And they have the complete cognitive dissonance thing down. They pretend like they care about the people, and they pretend that they care about fiscal conservatism, and they're anything but. They're just liars to the core. That's all they are. Yeah,
it's really a corporate scene, and so it's very weird to be trying to satirize it when it's like, God, has it gone beyond satire?
It's true, because when you hit those fringes like you do in your video, you're really kind of getting close to the reality of what's taking place, and
a version of it. My show is kind of like, the way I think about it, it's like my attempt to show people how it feels to be, how it feels to be me looking at this political landscape, and that's why it gets so crazy and weird, because it all seems crazy and weird to me. Seems like everybody seems to agree that it all seems like the government's wheels are falling off, right?
Right.
Even the corporate folks are, like saying, "Wow, how much more inept can we get?"
Well, it seems to me like it's a planned demolition in a lot of ways. Now, here in Texas, we have a state where, for better or worse, our fiscal coffers are actually pretty healthy, thanks, of course, to the petroleum industry, fracking, and all these other lovely activities that are taking place within our border. But the fact of the matter is that we have money. And as the federal government shuts down, I was thinking about this morning, what's going to be the response of the states? Are they going to say, maybe we should reconsider our relationship with this thing? What's your take on that?
Well, it would be that it might well occur to Texas, which, as you say, has some money. But, consider a lot of the states that might want to secede, for example, are actually very poor. And they actually get, if they'll take it, they get quite a bit of help from the feds. And so I'm not sure what those folks are going to do. It's where their ideology is going to get in their way, with the federal government actually, being willing to give them some money. But now that it's, as you say, if there's a controlled demolition going on, well, who knows? Will states start to secede soon? Whoa. Texas would probably be the first.
Maybe that could be one of your next videos, right? The state.
Yeah.
meeting.
Well. Yeah. Well, my current theory is that the Tea Party, if we take that to mean in its current meaning as, I guess, the far right, over in the Republican area, the far right, are secretly running the country, even though they're a relatively small group. They wanted the government shut down, right? I mean, that's kind of what they wanted. They're the anti-government guys and gals.
Mm-hmm. I think they're the anti-government guys and gals as government exists now. I think the new government, which is this proto-fascist corporocratic state, I think is what both parties want. And unfortunately, the Tea Party now has been associated with white people. Okay, I'm sorry, that's just the meme that's being floated. You look at the Tea Party, you look at the Republican right, you're not seeing pictures of, Michael West or whatever that guy's West name down in Florida. You're not you're not seeing the other guy, that clown from Michigan that ran for president, the former
CEO of Godfather's Pizza. You're not seeing these guys. You're seeing you're seeing essentially kind of the white Republican faction, and now unfortunately it's become synonymous, with quote unquote Caucasian or white people, and this goes back into this polarization and this divide and conquer, and now it's becoming ethnic minorities versus the party on the right or the party on the white, and I think this is very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yeah. I think everybody recognizes it as having the seeds of destruction in it, and the poor Republicans can't seem to get any ethnic minorities into their camp, and as these extreme right folks continue to hold sway, their policies keep getting further to the right, which is all very well, except that it certainly doesn't appeal to that many people, Yeah. The Democrats think they're in like Flynn, Over on the progressive websites, they say, oh, the country is becoming less white-dominated, and it's becoming more people of color, and the Republicans are just going to kind of wither on the vine just by the way the population is changing, And who knows, the only thing that worries me there is that it will give the Democrats no reason whatsoever to do us any good, right?
That's right.
If they think they're in like Flynn, then they don't have to worry about what we might want,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. In fact, if you look at the national news feed, you'll see Texas quite often portrayed in a negative light as far as its conservative practices, or it's like, oh, Texas.
Texas gets beat up a lot. Yeah, it gets beat up a lot.
Everybody walks around with a gun. They want their kids to have guns when they go to school, and my feeling is that if anything happened to this state, let's just say, for instance, something happened, there's a conflict, all of a sudden there's martial law, we got this weird kind of civil war thing going on in Texas, there are people throughout the country and that would say, oh, good, finally, those Texans, they'll get what's coming to them, right? They'll get.
Suppose.
I don't have any guilt. I don't feel any pain for those people, and that's unfortunate because this is what's been fomented in our current political climate.
Right. Everybody is so separated, so mad that they really do start wishing ill on others, and it doesn't seem to leave anybody undamaged or unaffected. Well. Well, they're dark days. They are remarkably dark times politically. With you keep looking ahead to more big problems that either it seems like government is going to have to solve these problems, right? But not if you don't have any decent government, or even if it's a fascist government. Is it going to be kind of an inept, incompetent fascist government? Just what we need. The worst of both worlds.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a really good working model for a fascist government outside of Indonesia. But other than that, I think it's uncharted territory, especially when you've got, many of our public servants wearing the colors black and blue on steroids and working out and being trained by the Israeli security teams now, which are rampant throughout this country in terms of security, surveillance, and all that stuff. Perry, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your process. Again, I think you do your videos mostly to stay sane. That's my sense, as well as inform people. But what else do you do on the side to kind of keep your head together? Because you seem like a fairly sensitive and open individual. How do you work with sort of this material in your own life?
I try to get enough exercise and go swimming and stuff like that. It's good to help keep your head together. Do some meditation, which is, it's hard to define exactly what meditation is, but, something by which you address your spiritual self or your, the calm inner self. that you hope to reach. So I do a little stuff like that, and I'm kind of a movie buff. And, that's stuff to get your mind off the dire situation.
Yeah. What's your next video going to be about?
It's going to be about the Obamacare wars. It's going to be a show called The Obamacare Wars, if I succeed in making it. And it'll be a show about it seems like, they tried to get health care and it turned into a war. That's what a bad situation we're in.
Yeah.
Even the effort to get people a little bit of insurance or a little bit of health care. Somewhere in there was someone actually making that effort. And look how it's gone so south in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's hard to say how it's going to go right now. Of course, Obamacare is just getting off the ground, and nobody knows how it's going to go.
It's going to get off the ground like the Led Zeppelin. That's how it's going to get off the ground.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So let's have you back on the show one of these days again, Perry, because I think you're absolutely fascinating, and maybe we could do kind of a shorter interview. This is a nice long, stretch to get to know you and your thoughts and explore some of your material. Let's have you back on again sometime and get kind of a quick political burst, especially if something happens, that is really important. We want to look at it. I'd just love to have you back on and get your take on it if we can.
Well, I love being here and would love to come back.
Okay, great. And maybe one of these days we can even get together in Austin. Wouldn't that be a unique idea?
It sounds doable. Let's look into it. Got a big music festival going on.
Yeah, I will not be at ACL. I refuse to wear their digitally chipped wristband, but that's just my own. That's my own little thing. Plus, I'm coaching baseball this weekend. But I will definitely reach out to you, Perry. We'll get together and we'll have a cup of coffee or tea or beer or whatever, and
sure.
We'll span the digital gap or the digital divide.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, listen, take care.
Thank you very much, Perry, for being on the show.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's Perry Logan, our friend from Austin, Texas. I would advise you to go to his website. Well, it's not really his website. It is YouTube, and that's where all of his crazy, zany videos are. And it's good to be able to talk to somebody from the left, somebody who's a Democrat, somebody who's a progressive, who sees the insanity of what's taking place on both sides. Both sides are villainous. They're complicit. It's a tag team. Think Miley Cyrus on one side and Lindsay Lohan on the other. Something like that. I think that's a good segue to our next guest, perhaps. That kind of strange commingling of weird polarities. They're not even polar, are they? They might be bipolar, but they're not polar. All right, let's bring her on. I have a new nickname for her. I call her the Mirth Goddess. It's our good friend, Sarah Nash.
Good morning.
Good morning. Where are you?
Good morning. It's
10:59. You were still in the morning. That's right. It's 11 a.m. there. I forget.
Yeah, I'm still sipping on coffee.
Yeah, me too. And I'm in the afternoon zone.
Well, actually, I sip on coffee all day long.
Well, how's the other C word going?
Cash flow?
No. That's not what I was thinking of.
Oh, wow. You're talking about the cosmic world?
No, I'm actually talking about small cylindrical objects that you put in your mouth and suck on, a.k.a. cigarettes.
Oh, that, yeah, no. I was on the teeter-totter of death at Burning Man, and my friend Brian actually has video of this, and I'm waiting for him to send it to me. I had no idea what I was getting into, and the guy, there was a trapeze artist or some sort of Cirque du Soleil dude who was running up and down the middle of it, and he was camped next to us, and he said, "Ooh, why don't you do the maiden voyage of the teeter-totter of death this year?" And, I'm a virgin. Like, I don't know what any of this is. I'm like, yay, let's go do this. Here's this thing. You could die. And I'm like, yay, let's go. Well, my friend didn't want to, so I was with another friend of mine, Scarlett. And she gets on one end, and I get on the other end, and you can actually Google this. I mean, go YouTube, teeter-totter of death, and actually the videos don't do it justice. And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to strap me in something. No, I was going to die. I thought I was going to die. I had blisters on my hands that lasted for a week. Anyways, after it was all done and over with, my friend Brian, who smokes, I stumbled over to him, and I grabbed a cigarette out of his mouth, and he's like, no. And, yeah. I'm like, I almost died. He goes, he's like, you're stupid. You're an idiot. I'm like, yep. And the proof of me being stupid and an idiot is getting on that thing. So go ahead. Look at the teeter-totter of death. I survived.
Can you describe it?
What?
Can you describe it? Give us a description of the teeter-totter of death. I'm trying to get a handle on this in my brain.
Okay, so there's this beam that's about 50 feet long, and it has a tractor seat welded to each side, and in the middle it's on some sort of revolving tire, I don't know, some sort of gizmo that makes it go up and down and then spins around. And it goes about 20 feet up into the air when you're on the part that goes to the top. And there's this guy who walks the center of it to try and balance it out. And once it's balanced out, then some other guy comes over there and spins the darn thing. Yeah, like that.
So is it
It's insane.
Is it motorized?
No.
So
And not only that, when it hits the ground, if for some reason the weight isn't balanced properly, yeah, you could die. It's insane. It is insanity. It's.
So,
I had no clue what I was getting into.
Did you see any people fall off that thing?
No, but several people did. Several people were actually quite hurt, as a matter of fact. So, but here's the thing: the minute you go through the gates at Burning Man, you've essentially agreed that you could die.
Right. Yes.
If you participate in any of these events, and many, 99% of them are beautiful and mild and wonderful, but there's a few out there where if you climb on them or you become involved in them, the art projects or something, yeah, you could die.
And people have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But not there.
Well, not
Burning Man has this marvelous thing where nobody's actually died on the playa. They've usually died on the way to the hospital.
No, well, maybe, yeah. There was somebody that a couple of years ago, somebody was hit by a car on the playa.
Oh.
And, yeah, so one year, I think it was maybe about 5 years ago, Burning Man had their first deaths. I think there was 2 people died at Burning Man. I'm not sure what the total number is. I know that there was another Burning Man where somebody died, so at least 3 people have died at Burning Man, which, if you think about it, right, I mean, it's been going on since the late 90s, and actually it's been going on since the 80s. The first Burning Man that I was aware of, I was at San Francisco Magazine, and they had a Burning Man out on the beach, and that's where Larry, I think, did his first Burning Man. And that was in 1988, so it's been going on since the late 80s. I went for the first time in 1995. That was my first Burning Man. And it was very different than Burning Man as it exists today. At that time,
I have to tell you that Burning Man changed my life.
Oh, yeah.
And it's stunning. I plan on going every year if I can. The White Light Express will have a theme camp there called Rebel Angels, and we're working on that right now. I really, really enjoyed my time with Sacred Spaces Village. It was just phenomenal. Everyone there was terrific. I met some of, I think, the most incredible people I've ever met on the planet. The art was inspiring beyond belief.
Yep.
I was just, every day, it's eye candy beyond belief, and it's miles and miles of just joy and laughter and happiness and filth. I mean, it's after 3 days, you know, you get to this point where, oh wow, yeah, I dropped my spoon. Okay, big deal. You know, you just wipe it off on your shirt, and the idea was that you just kind of let go of your ego and arrogance, and you started taking better care of the people around you, simply so you could survive as well. And I discovered that I was no longer an optimistic misanthrope. I actually found myself loving humanity in a way that I've never loved humanity before. And it gave me hope. It gave me hope because I thought, here we are living in this post-apocalyptic world for 9 days. And actually I was out there for about 15 days. But people were happy. People were happy. There was no yelling. There was no arguing. There was no get out of my way. There was no... the commiseration with the situation was just amazing, absolutely amazing, and even in the disgusting porta potties, and you know, you suddenly understood, you know, everybody takes a poop, everybody you know, smells, everybody looks like crap in the morning, and it just doesn't matter. People just loved each other. And no, people are not. I'm looking here at, you know what, in fact, I can't read this anymore. People are talking. Okay, new screen. Okay, boom. Yeah, no, the vast majority of people are not on drugs.
Right.
They are there. They are there. There's no doubt about that. But I would say that out of 68,000 people, maybe 8,000 of them are tripping balls.
Yeah, the last time I was there, which was in 2006, I did not do any substances, but I felt totally high the time I was there.
Yeah, and it was really funny. I was sitting in my camp, and somebody came stumbling by, and he stopped, and he looked at us, and he goes, I think it's in the dust. And we just nodded, and you know, it is definitely an experience. And as a highly sensitive person, I'm an HSP, there were moments that I had to just remind myself that I was a highly sensitive person, and I put myself in this situation on purpose as an experiment. And sometimes my mantra was, there is an end to this, there is an end to this. The one thing that I found very disturbing, and I'm going to, where our camp is going to be hopefully in a quieter area. We had a huge camp on the Esplanade, and right, sort of, for people who don't know what that is, it's sort of like the boardwalk. If you have, if your house is right on the boardwalk, then you're going to get all the action. But if you're back in the hills, then it's not going to be as noisy. But we had some of the best DJs in the world, and the noise and the 24/7 techno was too much. It was just too much, and I love techno. But at the end of 7 days, I found myself just needing some quiet. So I went up to the center camp, which was where people can get coffee. That's the only commerce on the playa, by the way. Aside from ice and water, you can go up to center camp and buy coffee. And it was quiet, and the art was wonderful. And then, of course, as a temple guardian, I was able to sit in the temple, and it was relatively quiet in there as well. I have a really interesting story. There was, in the middle of the temple on the playa, every year they build this marvelous temple, and it's usually just stunning eye candy, and they burn it. The day after they burn the man, they burn the temple. And the middle of the temple this year, they had something called a nukshuk, and it's like a cairn, but it was this big giant piece of basalt that weighed, I think, 9 or 10 tons. I can't recall. It took 900 hours to polish this thing, and they were actually going to just leave it there on the playa, to the best of my knowledge. After the temple burned, this piece of volcanic rock shattered when they went to go move it. And it was Monday afternoon. They burned the temple on Sunday. It was Monday afternoon. I felt that rock calling to me. I could feel it inside of me. And so we hopped on our bikes and we rode out to the middle of the playa where the temple had been. And there were several people out there cleaning where it had been. And I was just kind of shocked because we had presumed that there would be this giant basalt stone, and there was nothing there, and I just felt that I needed a piece of that. So as it turns out, Terry Gross, they call him Lightning Clearwater, I think that's his playa name. He was actually there, the guy who polished it, and the woman who designed it, and then the architect. All three of them were there, and I asked if I could have a piece of the rock, and the guy who actually polished it, Terry, he found me a piece, and he handed it to me. And then he said, go ahead, take another one. And I was actually able to find a piece of the base, the limestone base, and a long piece of Inukshuk, and it's on my altar now for the White Light Express. And I want to talk to you about that, and everyone else too, in just a minute. But yeah, I know here it is with Burning Man. You either love it or hate it. People have a lot of feelings about it, and I had no expectations. I had no feelings. I did my research, and it is just mind-blowingly awesome. It is absolutely brilliant, and I no longer have fear or doubt about humanity. I have fallen in love with humanity, and I'm so grateful for that.
That's great. Awesome. And I think, I've been twice, and I think everybody should go at least once just to experience it, because it's really...
At least once. Yeah,
it's really a very profound, life-changing event. And it can be profound and life-changing in good ways, and profound and life-changing in some not-so-good ways. I know people that have fallen in love on ecstasy at Burning Man and wound up getting together and having kids and then figuring out it was the worst thing they could ever do together. So, but, hey, that's life. It happens. But, yeah, you will be profoundly changed.
That can happen anywhere. People can fall in love on ecstasy anywhere. So, I mean...
the concentration of energy at that point makes it almost overwhelming. Like the odds are stacked in your favor for something like that to happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not gonna happen, in aisle number 6 at HEB. So, but yeah, it's good stuff. I went there for the first time, like I said, in 1995. There were only 4,000 people at Burning Man in 1995, and the playa didn't have any fences at all. You could just go as far as you wanted at that time. There wasn't any, Black Rock Rangers telling you to go back. And I actually saw a UFO out on the playa one night. It was the night of the burn, and I was out there with a friend. And I had this old Pontiac, 1970 Bonneville, which, much like your car, broke down on the way to Burning Man. And we finally got there, and I drove that thing way out of the playa the night of the burn, and all of a sudden these lights appeared, and very close to the car, and there was nobody out there, trust me. I mean, there's
I do. I've been there. I know. Only
4,000 people at Burning Man, and we would have been past where they had the fences, by the way. So nobody was out there waiting in the dark for a couple of suckers like us to play their little UFO trick, okay?
Uh-huh.
It was, and I got spooked. I said, I want out of here. Because the lights were so close to the car, and they were dancing around the car. It was like, let's start this up and get back to camp. And normally I'm okay with, I've seen UFOs before. I've seen at least 4. But for whatever reason, this one was not really, I wasn't vibing with it. So we split and went back to camp. But it's a tremendous transformational event. And now you say it's made you a more open and, I guess, responsive person to humanity at this point in time. How's that impacted what you're doing with your work?
Oh, in amazing ways. I've dumped a lot of fear. I have more compassion than I ever anticipated having in my life. And I am better at telling people that they need to have more responsibility for their emotional and physical bodies. I mean, metaphysics has become infinitely more clear to me with regard to the mind-body connection. And for myself especially, I've become stronger. I feel healthier. I'm still losing weight. When I was out there, of course, basically all you want to do is drink water. And I ended up doing far too many electrolytes. And I got a fever blister that was I kept telling everybody, it's not the herp. But yeah, you have to be really careful and you have to watch your body. But I worked harder as a part of Sacred Spaces Village. I was a volunteer with aspects of the kitchen and helping strike the camp. And I was very busy, and I was moving around a lot more, but my body felt much better. And I have now lost 18 pounds. When I came home, I was 14 pounds lighter. And so health-wise, I'm dropping more and more weight the right way. It's not the stress diet. It's actually the right way. And yes, I'm going to quit smoking. I'm moving in a way with my emotional and physical body in a way that I've never moved before. And I just feel more enlightened and more awake, and I have more desire to do art. So I have an art project that I'm working on right now with a couple of people that we want to do on the playa next year. And I'm hooked. And I don't have any expectations because I know year after year after year the experience is going to be different. I mean, my friend, she's gone 13 years now, and every year she says it's completely different. There's something new. And there's no possible way you can see everything. We're talking 9 miles of art and insanity. And one of my most profound experiences came at about 4:30 in the morning when I left the temple. I had a couple of them, but they're intensely private, and I'm not going to blab them. But I rode my bike out, and it was pretty quiet. 4:30 in the morning, it's just not as loud as it usually is, although it's still hopping. And somebody had an art project out in the middle of this very quiet area, and it was just a very small pyramid with a very old tree hanging from the middle of it. And there was these little like dog tags that were hanging from it. And you could actually, they had a box where you could write your hopes, dreams, and wishes, and you could hang it on the tree using a thumbtack and a paper clip. And I have pictures of it. I'm actually photoshopping all my pictures, and I'm going to put them in a small video, and I just haven't had the time. But this tree and this very simple project became a touchstone for me. It became one of those really beautiful, meaningful pieces that just out there, and it was so quiet, and it was lit, and it was one of the projects that wasn't lit with a million different colors. It just had a simple white light on it. And as as the event happened, it became more and more covered with these beautiful silver hopes, dreams, and wishes that all these people, thousands of people, were writing. And you could hear it just tinkling. It was like a wind chime. It was so beautiful. But I'm out there at 4:30 in the morning on my bike, and there was nobody else around, and all of a sudden this dust storm came out of nowhere. And I put on my goggles and my mask, and for about 5 minutes it was just me and this tree, because I couldn't see anything else around me. This upside down hanging old tree that didn't have any leaves on it. Imagine it was just the skeletal remains of this tree. And it was, I can't describe to you the moment that I had. I was stone cold sober, and it was very meaningful and very profound. And sometimes I even dream it now.
Interesting. Very interesting. Wow.
I can't. It changed me. It changed the entire experience. Changed me on the inside, and I think it's very important to go also with people who are very enlightened and very aware and very conscious. And I was supremely lucky that I was able to go with Brian Walter. He's funny as heck, and he'd been before, and so we were able to set up our camp. We got early arrival. So I didn't have to deal with the 8-hour wait to get through the gate. We actually arrived in Gerlach at exactly 11:11, and we made it onto the playa through the welcoming gates at 2:38 in the morning. So yeah, we didn't have to wait too terribly long, but there was a bit of a wait. And the funny thing is that when we went in at the beginning, a lot of people don't know that your car will be searched, and they have rangers there. And so when we pulled up, I'm like, "Where's my hug?" And the ranger, he looked at me, he goes, "Oh, we don't hug here. You got to get to the other gate before the hugging happens." And I kind of pouted for a minute, and he just shook his head. Like, I wanted a hug.
Right. So it's kind of like, you get the slap in the ass, and then you get the wonderful breast at the other side. That's how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, cool. So let's talk about White Light Express, and how was that? How did that all go for you?
The conference was amazing. I lost $9,000. I didn't make any money at all, and I was hoping to break even. But it was beautiful, and just I connected with some amazing people. So I was very grateful. But next year it's going to be done completely differently. I think what we'll do is I don't know. I'm really attached to how I want things to go, and that's another thing I learned. I've got to be less of a control freak. There's a lot I learned about how and what people want and how far they'll go to make that happen, and how much they'll pay to do that. And thank God George Norrie is just the hysterical dude he is, because he and Tom Danheiser, I love those guys. I love them. They were amazing. And but yeah, no, we only had a few people show up for the workshops, and that was disappointing. Sonia Grace is an amazing healer, and she's so, she is her name. She is Sonia Grace. She is filled with grace and love and compassion, and so she was very gracious. And Shannon Ryan, she did our opening ceremony. She's a stunning goddess, and we had quite a few people show up for her singing bowl, Tibetan singing bowl, crystal bowl, and then harp music. Mm-hmm. But overall, I would say that I think next year we're going to have to either go to Seattle or plan it a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. George has offered to come back to Seattle, and so I'm thinking that I might bring him back to Seattle, and we'll fill a theater, because there's a lot of people who said, if you had it in Seattle, I would have been there.
Right.
So And that's okay, because you live and learn. You live and learn, and I'm actually trying to think that maybe, well, but as far as the White Light Express goes, I want to tell people, both Avis and I channeled Saint Germain. Almost, it was just very interesting and beautiful and coincidental and synchronicity abounding. The White Light Express is going to go live 24/7 in November. This last grid, it will be the last one that we do from the 9th through the 16th. Beginning November, we are going to do the White Light Express grid continuously, and each week we will have a theme. It was based on a channeling we received with regard to what humanity needs now, because we really need to kick it into high gear. What's happening now with the alien agenda and with the government, we're pushing it towards that tipping point of consciousness where we can start thinking the same thing. We can start saying enough is enough, and we can release these vows of poverty that we've all been holding on to, and have our birthright of abundance and health, and work on spiritual and global endeavors. So basically 1 week we're going to focus on physical health, and then the next week we're going to focus on abundance and wealth, and then the following week it'll be about relationships, love, romance, family, friends, work, and then the following week it'll be about spiritual and global endeavors. Our last healing grid, we had over, I think it was like over 200 prayer requests, and I connected with Avis when I was at Angel Valley in Sedona, because she was here at home with the grid. So I connected with the grid at Angel Valley, and then she connected with the grid here at home, and it took her almost 2 hours to read all of the prayer requests, and I think that's beautiful. I really do. I think that's beautiful, because that means people are reaching out to spirit, and they're believing in something outside of them, which is I think an important part of healing. And it's like AA says, you got to have a higher power, and whether that's your the doorknob or not, it doesn't matter. You just got to believe in something outside of yourself. But here's what I do know, and I want to tell people, and I don't care if you agree with me or not. The bottom line is that the alien agenda has given us religion, okay? They gave us religion. They said, okay, what happens when people pray? When you're in a moment of distress, your body sends out an energy blast, okay? It's an SOS. As humans, we are unique like this. We go, help me, okay? And that's common. I mean, we've been doing this since the beginning of time. Well, the aliens came along and said, let's give them religion, and then they'll believe in a God, and then they'll start asking this, and this. It's not that I don't believe in God. What I believe in is that we need to start protecting ourselves more and more and more. I believe that there are forces out there who want to help us, and I also believe that there are forces out there who really want to F us up. And this is what I got from Burning Man. I saw aliens out there. I saw things that I cannot describe, and I was stone cold sober. I saw creatures who were walking around in broad, nightlight, that were not human.
So you are saying, on one hand, people need to believe in something outside of themselves. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you're saying people shouldn't believe in something outside of themselves.
No. I know it sounds like a paradox, and I know I'm not articulating it correctly, and that's because I'm a Gemini, and the flippin' Mercury retrograde says you have to be really, really careful about what you're saying, or you're going to screw yourself up.
Well, no, I'm just trying to understand what to believe in.
Yes, we need to believe that there is a God out there.
I want to know what to believe in based on what you want to.
Okay, there is a God out there. Okay, in my in my realm of belief, there is a God. Is it an old man sitting in the clouds pointing at us with his finger saying, if you don't do these 10 things, you're going to burn in hell, but I love you? No, that's not my vision of God. I know because I've seen God. I have seen what happens on the other side. We have a hierarchy out there that is stunning. It's bigger than the Sony Corporation. But here's what happened, okay? We started asking, oh, help me, help me, help me. We hit our needs. I need our knees, and we ask, you know, the angels, God, whatever. I need to win the lottery because I need money. The bottom line is that part of the alien agenda was to give us religion, to control us, and to control those prayers, and to control what we believed in and what we asked for. Okay? So is all religion bad? Did the aliens give us Buddhism? Should we just discard Buddhism? Did they give us Hinduism? Discard that? All religion is bad. All religion. Every single religion out there. If it's dogma, if it's rhetoric, if it tells you that you can't do something because you're going to be punished, okay? If it tells you that you're a bad person because you believe, or not because you believe, but because you have sex with your boyfriend, then, you know, or your girlfriend or whatever, or you masturbate, or you do this, you do that. I mean, what happens is that we get wrapped up in somebody else's idea of guilt and shame. If you're going to guilt and shame somebody, they're controlling you.
Well, this sounds a lot like this really, and I don't mean this to be pejorative, but this sounds a lot like Satanism, because in Satanism there is no guilt, right? There is no shame. There's nothing. There is no accountability on.
Oh no, I'm not talking about a lack of accountability. You don't get to go out there and murder people and, you know, rape 9-year-olds. I mean, there has to be a point of responsibility. At some point, you have to accept responsibility. Choices have consequences. You have to have awareness with consciousness. A lot of people are aware and they have zero consciousness. A lot of people are conscious and they have zero awareness. You know, collectively, we need to decide that we have to be stopped. We have to be. Religion is bullying, okay? It bullies you. And, you know, I was a Mormon for many, many years. And I was a Catholic, and then I studied this and I studied that. And it's funny that you bring up Buddhism, because Al Reed was one of my teachers. And I loved him, and I nearly converted to Buddhism. But the bottom line is that if it's going to bully you into feeling something or shaming you into something, then that should be avoided. And it's like Don Miguel Ruiz says, listen but be skeptical. Listen but be skeptical. You know, 7 billion people, it should be 7 billion religions. Make your own religion. Do it with awareness. Do it with consciousness. Do it with the idea that you will live on. And choices do have consequences. You don't get to do what you want. You don't. And if you decide that you want to wake up in the morning and, you know, carve people and put them on your wall, then fine. But realize that you're a sick puppy.
Well, okay. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Because the people that do that have been given permission by other people who believe that this is all just an illusion, that these are just nothing but flesh bags, that we're nothing but animals. So where is the divine consequence for any of this? They live in a world without religion. Now, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you about religion, but religion has had its purpose as an organizing principle. Now, if you take religion away, then what you have is, in your lexicon, 7 billion belief systems all competing for some coherent meaning or some coherent.
Okay, Robert. Everybody gets in a vehicle. Okay, we're all getting in a car. We're all getting in a car. Okay, and you know, we all get in the car, and we all know that when the light is red, we stop. All right. So, you know, we've got all these people out here getting behind the wheel. You know, some of them are crazy. Some of them are absolutely out of their minds. And yet all of us have a license to get in a 1-ton metal vehicle that can cause death and destruction. So, yeah, we do need a set of guidelines and rules. When the light is red, you stop. When you see a stop sign, you stop. I mean, everybody sort of accepts that, yellow doesn't mean you step on the gas and you go faster. You should slow down. Some people do it their ways. Other people, don't. But everybody, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Mormons, Catholics, Christians, Satanists, atheists, everybody gets in the car, and when the light is red, you stop. And if you don't, somebody's going to get hurt. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what you believe. But if that light is red, you stop. And that's what I'm talking about. And if you want to use that metaphor, you go ahead with that. And sure, we need guidelines. And we all need guidelines.
So who?
And
okay.
I'm not saying that the guidelines are I'm saying that religions give us these guidelines based on something that I think is inherently evil.
All right, so let me give you this is a concept in Judaism. It's called the Kol Nidre. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not, actually. What is it called?
It's called the Kol Nidre, Kolnidre, Kol Nidre. You can look this up.
Okay.
The Kol Nidre, I believe, happens on Passover once a year. And the Kol Nidre is when a member of the Jewish faith basically makes a pact with God. And basically it says, please forgive me for all the sins and all the evil that I have perpetrated over the past year. And, oh, by the way, please forgive me for all the sins and evil and lies that I'm about to participate in for the coming year. So what they're doing is they're creating a covenant with their version of God. And I'm not saying that this happens with everybody that is part of the Jewish faith, but the Kol Nidre is a very, very central theme that allows people to essentially do whatever they need to do or want to do for the coming year because they've struck a deal, that there is a contract that lets them off the hook morally for them. So when you say that that there are consequences, there in some faiths, the consequences are they are removed. They are conveniently removed as part of some kind of cosmic or social contract. Now that's just
through religion. You said it's through Judaism. They've essentially given themselves the license to drive through that red light and destroy whomever they want. To live with reverence means being willing to say that this is life and we can't harm it. And these are our fellow humans and we must not destroy them and mean it. That's what reverence is. What you're talking about in the in whatever this is, that is because of religion. And therefore, what you're saying is that, okay, Jews get to do this, and, Catholics, they get to go to confession. And,
right.
Mormons, they get to take the sacrament and be, Jesus died for our sins. So if I drink his blood and eat his flesh through the bread and water or the bread and wine, then I am forgiven. I get to do whatever I want and I am forgiven. And that's not why Christ came here. He came here to show us man's inhumanity to man. And again, you're talking about a religious rhetoric. That's something, my God. I want to make that deal.
More than rhetoric. It's more than a rhetoric. It's more than rhetoric. It's actually a piece of software in some ways. It's a social and cosmic contract. It's like a software. So I want to ask
in Judaism.
I want to ask you if we wipe out religion, we rubber stamp it, it's all bad. What replaces it?
Oh, that'll never happen. That'll never happen.
But
it'll never happen. The illusion for each, it's an illusion. And what I'm asking people to do is to, step outside of the illusion of religion. And let, I would probably be dead today if it wasn't for the Mormon Church. It gave me an incredible foundation. It taught me about the love of family, and it taught me about sacred things, and it it was the first church that I knew that they actually believed in a Heavenly Mother. They had, an honest-to-goodness Heavenly Mother. And, the Catholics have Mary, and we have Kuan Yin and goddesses of compassion. But the Mormon Church actually believes that there is a physical Heavenly Mother. And I adored that. So, is religion bad? Is it good? Whatever. All I know is that the information that was given to me, that was channeled to me, is that there is an alien agenda that has used religion to drive people, sheeple, into unconsciousness. Now, I'm not going to go out there and tell the Dalai Lama that Buddhism is ridiculous. Heavens no. And I'm certainly not going to go to the prophet of the Mormon Church and say you've got to stop. And I'm not going to go to the Pope and tell him that that's never going to happen. What I'm saying is that people need to step outside of the illusion and look at what is driving them and what the end result is. Who wants control? Control your own lives. Listen but be skeptical. If you want to be part of religion, if it gives you, I go to church almost every Sunday. I love Unity Church. I love it. It's very wide open but it is a spiritual community. So am I part of a religious movement? I guess I am. Does that make me a hypocrite? I don't know. I love the tenets of Unity Church. I love being part of a spiritual community outside of my own, which is the White Light Express. And I'm not saying that we all need, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I'm saying wake up. Wake up and look at what these cults have created. If it's about fear, then you need to take another look at it. If it promotes you, if it makes you feel better, then okay. And again, if you're out in the middle of some pygmy jungle or wherever, and it's part of their religion that they eat their dead, and we here in this quote-unquote civilization go, ew, well, we understand that eating your dead can make you sick. So then we tell people, okay.
I just think that, I hear what you're saying, but I would tend to disagree about if it feels good. If it feels good, then just do it. I tend to think.
Oh my God, Robert, please.
Well, no,
really, no. It feels good for a murderer and a pervert to rape a child. Let's use some common sense here.
Sarah, people don't have common sense. People have.
No, they don't.
People have given themselves away to feeling good. Okay, they've given themselves. The reason why the world is in such a screwed up place in so many ways is because people have put their desires first in an inappropriate fashion. That's why we're having such a challenge. And I think the type of accountability that you're talking about comes from a very deep, very sacred, very profound place that you have to be able to put yourself in another person's position to see and feel and understand what it would be like to cross a boundary or to make that person feel violated on some level, whatever that is. And unfortunately, we've been conditioned to just do what feels good, to do what feels right. And I don't think that that's really the barometer for what we have or what we need. And there are people, again, we live.
Okay,
right
so you brought up a very important word, conditioning.
We live in the
no two people have the same reality. No two people have the same reality.
Luciferianism. That's where we are.
Conditioning is that's the key right there. What have we been conditioned to feel?
Our religions, Sarah, our religions are being swapped out for a new religion. Okay? They're being swapped out for a new religion. It's being replaced. Just watch any hip hop video. You got the Eye of Horus. You've got the Il Diablo, the Jay-Z. The pyramid with the left eye through it. This is the new religion. This is what we're being fed, and it's all about subjective morality and it's all about these quote-unquote humanistic principles with a sprinkling of New Ageism for glitter on top of it. This is the new religion. So if you want the old religions to go away, they probably will, because we're being conditioned to accept a new one. That's my take here, and I think it's a slippery slope.
I agree with you 100%. It's a new religion that we're being conditioned to accept, and it's based on something about, and I can't quite articulate it, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is, oh my God, it's so evil. It is evil.
Yeah. So I think
no, actually, we are actually on the same plate. I mean, what I'm hearing from you is exactly what I'm trying to say. You know, we've been conditioned to listen and be part of a religion. So, okay, now I truly believe that part of the alien agenda is to hand us all these symbols and signs and get us to the point where we're like, oh, it's okay, and boom, then we are just meat.
Yeah.
And we are just they win. And I, again, like I said, it's very difficult for me to articulate, but what I saw and what I felt was that we are under attack. We are under attack. And if we don't stand up collectively as humans and say, enough is enough, you know, you don't get to own us. You don't get to sit in our brains. You don't get to assimilate us. Resistance is not futile. And there's so many layers of this that my first point of contention with humans is religion. Okay, and so if they're inundating us with a quote unquote new religion because we have to dump our old religions, no, that we need to not do that. I mean, for God's sakes, please stay a Mormon, please stay a Buddhist, please stay something, but don't become this other thing. I mean, you know, again, we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We just need to have consciousness and awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. Oh wow. I'm talking about the reverence of life. We have to have more reverence for life. We have to have more reverence for one another. And for God's sakes, I mean, if you want to be a Buddhist, be a Buddhist. If you want to be a Jew, be a Jew. If you want to be a Muslim, be a Muslim. But let's have reverence for one another. And let's not allow this higher, not higher because that's actually a good word, but let's not allow this bigger agenda to step in and suck our brains out. Let's do this. Let's go forth with consciousness. I mean, I can't remember when it was, but I had a conversation with someone who was a hardcore Christian. I mean, we're talking a fundamentalist. And they were saying that the Dalai Lama was going to burn in hell because he didn't accept Jesus Christ as his savior. And I just kind of stepped back, and it was at that moment in my life that I realized, y'all are nuts. You're absolutely nuts. And it was this point where I just kind of went, wow, what are we doing to each other? We're damning each other, and who put this thought in our head? Who put this thought in our head?
Well, I've got my own feelings about the Dalai Lama, and they're more along the lines of I don't think the U.S. should be supporting him to the degree that it does, because, you know, first of all, Tibet will never return to China. That's just a fact, Jack. And number two, you know, I've been involved in events with the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama is strangely kind of proto-fascist. I was at Stanford University one time. This was back in 2006, and my friend Stephen Kent was playing didgeridoo, and basically opening for the Dalai Lama at Stanford. There was a big meditation that the Dalai Lama led inside the basketball stadium, and then later a much smaller group of people inside the chapel at Stanford, and there was an interview with the Dalai Lama that was being done by Orville Schell, who was the head of Asian Studies at the University of California, Berkeley, a very famous guy connected to the Schell family, who has all the wonderful Neiman shell beef. So anyway, Orville Schell asked the Dalai Lama about the war in Iraq at that time. And the Dalai Lama went off about this, on this tangent about spreading democracy. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I mean, here's a guy that lost his country to the same kind of imperialism that's being practiced in Iraq, and he's condoning it. First of all, I don't think a Buddhist should have any political opinion whatsoever. Second of all,
we have to separate religion from economics. We have to separate religion from politics.
The opinion, well, especially since a Buddhist is all about everything is an illusion and a trap of the mind, right? But he has an opinion, and his opinion was that essentially it was a good thing. And coming from a guy whose country was pillaged by the Chinese, which, by the way, I think was kind of a weird kind of karmic kickback from the Nazis and the Tibetan monks giving all of their occult secrets to the Nazis. That's another story. But I couldn't believe he was saying that. And when I heard that, I said to myself, something's not right about this arrangement with this guy. And when he comes to San Francisco or any other city, the amount of people that surround him, the amount of infrastructure and services that are a part of his experience, it was like he was speaking in Oakland, in Berkeley rather, but he had to stay in San Francisco. He had to stay at the best hotel. They had to cordon off blocks from the hotel. They gave him a motorcade all the way to Berkeley. I mean, do we need this? I mean, he parades around like a global rock star. And
well, he kind of is.
Well, but it's like, I don't get it. And I think his time is over and done. Okay, enough. Go be your spiritual, guide somewhere else, because it's the cult of personality. And by the way, I think that
it is, yeah.
And I just and that kind of cognitive dissonance when he said that he actually was in favor of what the United States was doing in the Middle East was a clear sign to me that he was a government shill at that point in time. So, take it for what it's worth. That's my 2 cents on the Dalai Lama. So, anyway, hey, listen, we're almost out of time. Are there any other things that you got going on, or events or activities that you want to talk to people about?
Always. But I just want people to understand that it's impossible, really, to have any kind of prayer without power. And I really want people just to drop into their own hearts and to trust their own intuition, and to really go forth with love and understanding and reverence for one another. And if we can stop judging one another and come together collectively, I think we can beat, and just this alien agenda thing is just really first and foremost in my brain. I'm frightened for us. I'm frightened for us, and we need to have more respect and reverence for each other. The messages that I'm getting tell me that we're on the verge. We're on the verge, and something's going to happen here in the not too far future that's going to certainly make it very, very apparent, not just to a few 100,000 believers, but to the entire world, that we are not alone in this universe. And we are certainly not alone in this galaxy, and that everybody out there, that there are entities out there who want to assist us and help us through ascension, and then there are entities out there that have their own agenda as well. So I just want us to come together. I don't care what your religion is. The religion should be save the humans.
Okay.
However that has to happen, save the humans.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sarah, thanks again for coming on. We'll see you again in about 30 days. Check in with you and find out what's going on in your world. So take care of yourself. We didn't have
a whole lot of mirth today. I promise next time there will be lots of joking.
Well, you are the mirth goddess, Phyllis. So you work.
Today I'm the blue-collar goddess, but yeah.
Why don't you work on the mirth, all right?
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. That's Sarah Nash, the Cosmic Cooker, and we're almost here at the end of the show. I want to thank Perry Logan, my fellow Austinite, for joining me and sharing his insights and his humor with us. Go check him out. Perry Logan on YouTube. He's a really, really funny guy, unique. And we need more funny and unique in these very depressing and in some ways very perilous times. Not perilous, but perilous. All right, this is Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to the Friday FARcast. I want to thank everybody who listens live, who listens after the show as part of the podcast. We've got some guests coming up that are going to be very interesting. Michael Tellinger is going to be on the show. I believe that's going to be the 18th, and we're going to be talking about Ubuntu, which is his view on a new social economy and whatever else is happening in Michael's world. Also, we managed to hook up with Laird Scranton, and Laird Scranton has a book on Velikovsky, and we're going to be talking about Velikovsky, his book, Comet Ison, the history of comets and the Dogon. So Laird Scranton will be coming up on the show. Also, my good friend from Persia, Susan Dahim, will be joining us in the weeks to come. Richard Grossinger, one of the brightest and most turned on people on the face of this earth. He'll be with me on an upcoming Friday show. So there's just tons of interesting and wonderful information and personality that are coming your way in the next 4 weeks. So don't miss it. Stay tuned to the Friday FARcast and my other shows, the Monday Mashup and Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I have a new post up on the site, robertphoenix.com. You can go there. You can also subscribe to Gaian TV, where you can see my 2 interviews with Regina Meredith about the baby boomers and about Pluto and Scorpio, the millennials. And I'll also be launching my own show very quickly here, the 11th House, as soon as we finish up the details of the first episode. And you can get all that through Gaian TV on my website and on my blog. You can also read up on my take on Obamacare, which was crafted by Zeke Emanuel, and from a paper that him and Alan Wertheimer worked on. And it's a very interesting paper, shall we say. It's kind of based on eugenically fueled healthcare. So you can get the link to that PDF and read it. I think it's the spine of Obamacare. And it's important to take in and understand what's coming as a result of this program that's headed our way. Program that, by the way, nobody read before they signed it. Just the blind sign. Go ahead. We're getting our own health care. We don't give a shit. We're going to sign off on it. It's good. Trust us. He's a Democrat. He cares. Channeling Perry there. All right. So that's it. We've reached the end of the show. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to see open what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Let's hear a little Philip K. Dick.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.